Sessions have been incredibly insightful in taking my knowledge of climate solutions to the next level. In session 9, I took particular interest of Dr. Agnes Calabata's commentary on waste and its relations to a global system. She made mention of the fact that avocados of a particular size are favored by large wholesale buyers, and in many instances, the other avocados are just thrown out, despite only an aesthetic difference. This is just one example of how bothersome the current system of capitalism is and how exploitative our food production chains are. She also described the inefficiencies of meat, and I connected these problems to the reoccurring issue that meat has on the climate, which is particularly emphasized in the Gates reading. I understood that despite the frequent emphasis on impacts of electricity, gas-powered vehicles, and other lifestyle choices, that constant red meat consumption and food waste are actually much larger parts of the carbon footprint conversation, and they're conveniently ignored. When I took the carbon footprint assessment, I considered how my own red meat habit is in direct contradiction to my desire to lower my own personal ecological and climate impacts. I was intrigued by Sanjeev Gupta's talking points in session 10, although I must admit that I did not agree with many of his points about moving Africa forward. I was interested by his insistence that wind and solar were not viable options and that job displacement and the effects on land were much more costly than the long-term benefits. I took particular notice that he said that wind would cause too much deforestation, which was a negative impact that I am not familiar with, and I plan to research it further. Despite this difference in vision, I really appreciated his understanding of Africa's trajectory and his practical values that jobs needed to be prioritized along with and above a greener future. His views had a compelling contrast from those of the proponent of the circular economy from session 11. And this speaker held that a circular economy was necessary in developing Africa as well as the global north, which is a system not explored in depth enough in any of the assigned readings. Overall, I'm very skeptical of advocates of the circular economy, as this is often disguised for a much grimmer form of capitalist eco-design and greenwashing, and the language of the circular economy has already been adopted and obfuscated by many multinational corporations wishing to then absolve themselves from their negative climate impacts. My favorite session from this last weekend was the cultural exchange with the entrepreneurs and innovators, and I greatly enjoyed hearing from Fieldhelm Hardy about his zero waste matrix, which was a much more usable framework for consumers than the one outlined in the Gates reading during chapter 12. I was also delighted to hear from Vina Lostado about her vision for tiny house communities and the scalability of this project. I hope to see that this continued innovation is in the future of urban design and community planning. Ultimately, I wish I could have heard from all the innovators that spoke, and again, I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity to be in this course.